get this going. That way we can throw it up and people might get some value from it. Do you have any questions for me? How have things been?
No, not really any questions. I haven't gotten the workout in today, but I looked at it. That shit looks intense. Like,
Yeah,
am I allowed to
dude.
curse? Am I allowed to curse? I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if
you
this
can.
all right for sure. Yeah, no, I don't know because it's being recorded, right? But no, it looks intense. It looks intense today, but not really any questions.
Remember, you don't go into the gym or you don't, start working with somebody like me to not work hard though, right? So we
100%.
just we just
Yeah,
make that be known that that
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, that's part of the game. But yeah, that's good. A little scary is good for you. It makes you a little bit
yeah,
and you know what else? When you complete a workout like that, it makes you feel kind of like on top of the world. Like you can't really be phased because you did something hard.
100%.
Cool, man. Zach, what about you, dude?
No, I don't have any overarching questions. I
How'd
wound up.
that extra one go for you this week? You like that?
Yeah, I did. I had to. I'm having to push the one from today to tomorrow. I didn't get home from work until a little while ago because I was on the road all day, and then lo and behold, one of my old neighbors was biking through the neighborhood, and we stopped and chatted for like an hour. And the
Oh,
next thing I
good.
knew was like, oh shit, it's 7:30 my time. I better hop on this. So,
That's all
but
right.
yeah, but no, I like having that extra day in there. It's another, just another reason to stay moving and
Yeah.
keep chipping away at the goal.
Yeah,
So
good deal, man. Well, cool. Ryan, I see you in here too. Do you have any questions for me overarching before I kind of get into this chat?
No, I don't think so. I'm just still trying to figure out how to use this fucking thing. I'm trying to get my. I'm not much of a zoomer.
No
Uh,
worries. I'm not either until
I'll
I
get
had to
better.
figure out how to do these myself. So it's
Yeah,
definitely it's a bit of a learning curve.
I'll be listening along. But I actually just finished that day one of just re-upped.
Hell yeah.
And it was good.
How'd you like those? You did the man makers, yeah?
No, that's not till the 17th.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
he knows what day it is. He's
My
like, oh,
fault.
I
I
got a
thought you
medal
were
I
on the
can
wrong
prepare.
one. My bad.
no, this one was like this is like a mix between a mobility and
Oh,
a.
that's right. You had some sissy squats today. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the Jefferson curls I like so much.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, man. Well,
So
cool. I'm with it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm just gonna go real quick. The first thing I'm gonna do is kind of go over a quick little overview, and I'm gonna share my screen here, of kind of how I use my Fitness Pal, and I'm gonna probably let me know if you guys can see that. Can you see that? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna kind of go over kind of briefly what it looks like when I go through it, and then if you guys have any questions, you can kind of stop me along the way. So I did a screen record, and I'm probably just gonna stop the frame a couple of times just so you guys know. So I'm getting in here to my Fitness Pal. I'm basically one thing that I want everybody to do is when you get into yours, I want you to click the more button in the bottom right, and then you're gonna click this button here that says goals. Once you click the goals section, you can go into this, and I just clicked it super fast. This calorie, carbs, protein, and fat goals under nutrition. And once you get into that form on your phone, you're able to set a caloric intake goal for the day. And you're also able to set your carbs, fat, and macro split.
Yep.
So this is where we talk about, hey, we're aiming to get, a 40-30-30, or in this case that I think I was at, I wanted to hit 40-35-25. It's totally going to change, and that's inevitable in the program. But what I want you to realize is that this is where we go to set that information in the app on your phone. So, for example, I'm going to show like, hey, let's just say I decided to change mine to, I don't know, 2350, and I decide that my percentages were off. So now I'm going to switch my percentage from whatever. Notice how it does give you like an over 100% value or under 100%, and it won't take. And then I basically save that. And now I'm going back to like the home screen here. Does that make sense for you guys that are on the call?
100.
Cool. Next thing, I'm gonna go over to like a blank day, and I kind of went to like tomorrow, just as a template, and I'm gonna show you kind of how I use this to track where I'm at and kind of where I'm going. Sometimes you can go and look ahead. You can be like, hey, tomorrow I'm gonna plan out my meals. I think that's a little aggressive, but if you're the type of person that needs that, that's totally fine. And I support you in doing that. So here I'm going to go into this breakfast section and I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to add the breakfast that I had today. So I take Isopure protein and I'm going to click that. I had 2 scoops of it, which is, like 50 grams of protein. I'm going to add it to my little cart. And then I added a banana in the smoothie. So I added that in there and you can see, shit, it just kind of went super quick on me again. You can see when I go back to this home screen, it's populated in the breakfast section. Now, I don't really care if you're logging the food all in the breakfast section, in the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or the snack section or whatever. But at the end, I'll show you kind of how the split breaks down so you can kind of get a better idea of where your calories and where you're performing well in your tracker. So I like to make sure it's true to what I'm doing. So in this case, for breakfast this morning, I had, 2 scoops of protein and 1 banana. So then I'm going down and now I'm going to add my lunch food in here. And what is nice about MyFitnessPal is, I think I go into it right here, is you can click this button, My Meals, at the top, and you can basically like preset like a ton of different things in here. So for example, like I have preset a ton of different meals, and one of them is a yogurt bowl because I like to have yogurt. And at the time when I did this yogurt bowl, it was about a cup and a half of yogurt. I had blueberries in there. I had some, this is some granola, chia seeds, and then that chocolate maple pretzel peanut butter that is so fucking good. And then basically it'll give you all of what that's going to give you for that meal, and that's great. I can hit add at the top in the top right, the plus sign, or like I show here, you can delete different things out. So let's say I did it without granola. I can remove that, and then it gives me my new metric there in the app to then add in. And this is me going back and adding it into my meal. So, oh shit. Hang on 1 second. I'll go in there. So you click the yogurt bowl. I've got that in there at the top, and then I'm going to click the button at the top right, which is the check mark, and then it logs the food. So now I've got my lunch, my breakfast in there, and then I know, because I'm a creature of habit, I'm going to go into the dinner section and I'm going to be like, hey, earlier this week I had steak and sweet potatoes. So let's say, for example, I had a steak and I had sweet potatoes for dinner, and I throw those in. So now I'm going to go down to this bottom button. That's the nutrition button. And it's going to give me a breakdown of how my food looked for the day. So notice how my calorie count, a lot of that was taken up at dinner time, a little bit less for lunch, and then even less for breakfast. It's going to give me the total calories, the net, and then the goal of what I had. So you obviously know if you're have a different value there. Then you can swipe over and then get even more information in this bar graph. And I like this a lot because what this does is it breaks down on a percentage gradient how close you are to hitting each of your metrics for the day. So let's say, in this case, my goal for protein for the day is 234 grams. Well, I'm at 178. So I know, like, hey, I could have another snack later that has 40 grams of protein in it. And or it's more than that. That's bad math. Don't hold me to that math there. So 50 grams of protein there. And then I'm able to then hit that goal for the day. So it'll also show you like a ton of other fats, trans fats, other things. It's obviously telling you like, hey, the goal is to have none of this ridiculous fat bullshit at the bottom, but it ends up happening based on what you eat. So don't be discouraged when that stuff comes in there. And then the numbers for the sugar and the fiber are typically preset, unless you pay for the pro edition. I think that's when you can start to unlock those other features. But the macronutrients you can set of the fats, the carbohydrates, and the proteins. So you'll go through that, look at that. And then this is where in the macro section in the top right now is where you're going to pull all the information that basically shows what we want in those weekly check-in forms. So the weekly check-in form is going to pull in your carbohydrates, fats, and proteins metrics, which is these percentages. So our goal obviously here was the 40, 30, 30. But what I actually hit was a 37, 35, 28. And what you can do is just take a running average of how the week went. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you rounded that to 40, 35 and 30 or 25, then that'd be fine. I'm totally cool with you guys rounding those off. It doesn't have to be of exact science. just has to be kind of close. Does that all kind of make sense for everybody? Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, just a really, really quick MyFitnessPal tutorial. Again, if you have any questions about it, we can chat about it too a little bit more. So I am hoping that my screen isn't sharing anymore. Let me know if it is. Cool. Next thing I want to chat about, Iman asked last week. Iman, do you want to like tell everybody what your question was exactly? And then I can kind of go into how I drove that into like a discussion about hunger and thirst cues.
Yeah. Was it
If you
about
don't
like
remember,
me?
I remember.
Was it about me like needing to like snack all the time
Yeah.
before?
Yep.
Yeah, before, yeah. No, so like I have this like weird thing where I cannot go to bed if I have unless I have like some type of like sugary or carby food, whether that's like a peanut butter jelly sandwich or like last night I was craving it so much I did like a Stroop waffle and peanut butter and honey on some bread. And that just really kind of like, it messes the groove up a little bit and throws those macros out of balance. And so yeah, it's just like this issue with craving food and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So Aman, thanks for that, man.
No
Aman
worries.
basically came and was like, he's like having these cravings and he's trying to figure out kind of what the deal is. And what I kind of equated his issue to is an understanding of his hunger and his thirst cues and kind of understanding how those work. So hunger and thirst cues are your body essentially signaling that you're hungry and or thirsty, right? Super self-explanatory. Survival instinct says that when Blaze doesn't eat all day and I ran around and hunted and 100 BC, that I'm gonna have to eat something, and my body is telling me that, so that I go out and I forage or figure out what I'm gonna eat. I fulfill that craving, I fulfill that need, and then it goes away. So it's your body's mechanism to stay alive. Well, in today's society, we find that a lot of people are starting to mess up the signals between the two. So a thirst cue and a hunger cue both could feel very, very similar. So let's say like Blaze is actually dehydrated. So I like went out and I like worked out at the gym and I finished and I was sweating my ass off. And I get home, I'm like, damn, I'm fucking starving. And it's like, okay, how much did I sweat before? How much did I eat the day before? And how does that play into where I'm at now? So what I'll tell you is that when you have that feeling, when you have that, stomach grumbling or that craving that starts to hit, I like to reach, instead of for a snack or that carby food, I like to reach for 8 ounces of water or like a LaCroix or like a low sugar Powerade. Substitute it with any of those types of things, 8 to 12 ounces. What that does is that signals to your body that if it was a thirst cue, you're satisfying that thirst cue. So your thirst cue now that was presenting itself as what you thought was a hunger cue, because they're very, very similar and easy to mess up, is that you're fulfilling the thirst cue. And now if you are still hungry after that and your body's like, hey, I still could use some food, you give it 15 minutes and then you're like, okay, sweet. Now I actually do need a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now I actually do need whatever this other thing is to fill the gap, to fill the void. So I find that because those signals get crossed, you end up in a position where you're essentially psychoanalyzing the feeling, and the feeling is something that can present itself in a very, very similar way. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So you're basically saying like I kind of have to rewire my brain when these types of things happen. It's kind of like an impulse
Correct.
response.
Yeah. So what I'll say is like the craving sometimes can be not just for a food, but it could also be for a flavor. So some people struggle, and I'll say myself as one of those people, is that when I was really trying to cut weight down, I think I was trying to like cut down to like, I think I had a really aggressive goal of getting below 10% body fat probably like a year ago. And when I was doing that really aggressive cut, I found myself getting super, super hungry, middle of the day, because I'm in a calorie deficit. It's pretty natural for that to occur. So I'm in the calorie deficit and I'm like, fuck, I'm super hungry. Well, what I did instead of rushing to go and eat something, because I knew I needed to hit a calorie count to stay in the deficit, is I would run and I would drink a little bit of water. And if that didn't curb my desire to eat or my, like, you know, that rumbling in my stomach, I would actually go grab a piece of gum and I would chew on a piece of gum for some flavor, or I would go to a drink that had some flavor in it so that it actually satisfied the, you know, mental and body's signal that I'm hungry. And then if I were able to push that back, or if I were able to last, say it's 2 or 3 o'clock and I had that bottle of water and that stick of gum, I could wait until 5 or 6 when I'm going to eat dinner at that point, if that makes sense. So it's understanding that sometimes it's going to present itself in the same way, but it may end up shifting, you know, based on how you react to, did I successfully fulfill that craving? Yes. Okay, now I'm not even hungry and I'm good to go. Or no, now I can go and grab a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Right.
Cool. We understand that a little bit.
For sure. For sure. It's definitely like 50% mental game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I would argue it's more than that. I would argue it's more than that, because when you're in that position, like a lot of times you'll just be like, oh, like what sounds good, right? And to me, what sounds good is never a bottle of water or whatever else, right? It's like, hey, you need to, like, once you get that feeling, you're like, okay, let me take a second. Am I hungry or thirsty? I don't know, because I still don't know. I still have no idea. So instead, I'm going to go over to my fridge and I'm going to grab a, you know, 0 sugar Powerade, or I'm going to grab a LaCroix, or I'm going to grab a Kirkland seltzer. And I'm going to be like, I'm going to drink this first. And I'm going to give it 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, if I'm feeling different or I'm still feeling hungry, I'm going to eat, because it's not about starving yourself. It's not about pushing that all the way to the side, but it is about making sure that you're fulfilling that craving and you're making sure that you're, you know, scratching that itch. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and be fucking miserable. Right.
100.
Cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like the harder you abstain, the more you're gonna fall off the wagon.
For sure. Yeah. Because it's not a game. It's not a game that's about like binging and then not. It's a game about figuring out your body and how it presents that information to you. And the way that my body at the time was presenting the information to me is that it was like, oh, dude, you're hungry. And then I had to be like, am I hungry or am I thirsty? And, you know, and then I'm going down this like whatever, like decision gate tree where I'm like, oh, yeah, am I hungry? I don't know. Drink water. Okay. Did that make it better? Yes. Okay. Now I'm not hungry. Or no. Okay. Gum. Is the gum fulfilling the craving now? And if not, no, then eat, you know? So I essentially work my way down this decision matrix. And I'm like, okay, now I'm setting myself up for more success, because not only am I keeping to my plan, because I decided, hey, you know, on my Fitness Pal, say I map my meals out for tomorrow because I made extra dinner, because I love doing that. Make extra dinner, because then tomorrow's meals are way easier, because all you got to do is heat them up, right? So I got, you know, a steak for tomorrow that I got figured out, and I already know how that's playing into my macro game. So sweet, steak and potatoes tomorrow. And now I know that as long as I stick to, you know, a protein shake in the morning after the workout, the steak and potatoes in the afternoon, my evening, I could throw in a little bit of ice cream. Like I'm fucking good to go, you know?
Yeah.
And as long as you have that stick of gum instead of the peanut butter and jelly or waffle midday, then you're like, you're still hitting all those wickets that you pre-planned the previous day. And not to mention, it's a huge mental win if you're able to do that too.
Absolutely.
Everybody loves a good flow chart.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So another thing I want to talk about too is I gave a lot of people general guidance when we're going for like macro planning. And that's that 40-30-30 split. And it's definitely going to change based on who you are. But that's going to be that 40% protein, 30% carbohydrate, and then 30% fat. And the reason that is because I think if we're hitting a metric that's about that 0.7 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So let's say I'm 200 pounds, right? 200 pounds means if I'm on the high end of protein intake for the day, I'm going to have 200 grams of protein in my day. Holy, right? If I hit that 200 grams, the rest of it in the carbs and fats realm is likely going to be, if you're in some sort of a generic split, you know, 30-30, maybe you get 35, you get 25, and that number can fluctuate, and that's okay. But if we're missing our protein intake, if we're not hitting that metric, our body can't recover. We're not saying satiated for as long, because again, we talked about that with hunger cues, right? If you're not having something that has protein in it, then you're essentially not filling that cup enough. Your body is going to feel hungrier earlier, and then you're going to want to eat more because you're getting what I call not a the protein takes longer for the body to digest. So because it's taking longer for the body to digest, then your body is staying fuller for a longer period of time. Ipso facto, you're going to eat less in that window as well. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So again, just the quick math, I'm Zach, and I say I'm 160 pounds. I want to be between, 140 and 160 grams of protein in a day. And this is why I want to do this to, the other two. If we get to about 30%, we'll let that ride for a bit. Sometimes people feel better on a higher fat diet. And I would say like a lot of women struggle in the hormone realm because they actually don't have enough healthy fats in their diet, and their hormones actually start to struggle from that. So a lot of times you'll be like, hey, for the women in the room, sometimes you'll be on, hey, that's going to be a 40, 35, 25 or a 40, 40, 20. And then you're going to start to get into other realms where you're starting to try and balance out that hormone. That way, when your hormones are more balanced, you're able to lose and or gain weight based on what your goal is. Because if your hormones are out of whack, your cortisol is doing one of these numbers from all your stress, and you're sleeping like shit, it's really, really hard to meet that goal. We tracking?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Does anybody have any questions about kind of general macros, hunger, thirst cues, or anything MyFitnessPal related? Sweet. Zach, you've been pretty quiet. You sure you got nothing over there?
Nope, doing good. Everything's tracking.
Okay, cool, man. Well, that's kind of all I had for you guys for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll essentially what I'll do with these, and I've been doing it the other times as well, is I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to basically just throw it on YouTube and then link it to all of our pages. So if you want to listen to it again, you can. Otherwise, it's just a resource for you to have if you are curious about how to do stuff in MyFitnessPal, or if you want another conversation about hunger and thirst cues, or if you know somebody else who's like, hey, I'm struggling to figure this shit out. You can be like, hey, here's a video that we talked about it in a coaching call, and then you can send it to them as a resource too.
For sure.
Cool. All right, everybody. That's all I got. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Keep working hard in the program. Everybody's doing super, super good. I'm stoked because the results section of the program is like right on the horizon for a lot of us, for big ones too. Ryan, for you especially, dude, you're like really, really close to starting to see some crazy, crazy change, especially when you go hitting the rugby pitch and stuff. So I'm really stoked for that to start happening. And if you guys have any questions, you've got my phone number, so hit me up.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All
All right,
right, it's great to
everybody.
meet you too, by the way.
Absolutely.